You had mentioned in one of our emails back and forth that you were recently on set for Dimension 20.
I have gotten clearance to say that we are working with them, and that's no mystery because we are credited. Sharing a space with the director, executive producer, we're all watching because it's, you got to watch the monitor to see what's going on. What people don't realize is we're right off camera, quietly cheering and jumping and just covering our mouths.
That's funny, yay!
Yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome to another Geek Peek interview. Joining me shortly is our guest of this interview, Patrick Rami, founder of Lethal Shadows, a premium miniatures, dice, paintbrushes, paints. They seem to do it all, and they seem to do it all very well. I do have quite a few of their products myself, so I can attest to how good they are. We will be talking about the founding of the company, the steps that they've made to grow the company as much as they have, and stick around for later in the interview when we talk about the big surprise coming to this year's PAX Unplugged 2024. Enjoy! Greetings everybody, thank you for joining us for another Geek Peek interview. As always, I'm Cody, and with me is Patrick Rami, owner of Lethal Shadows, a company that designs and produces TTRPG miniatures, dice, notebooks, brushes, paints, and so on and so on. Patrick, very much thank you for joining me. How are you doing today?
Great. Yeah, great. Just super busy prepping for Unplugged. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. I mentioned you guys do a whole lot. I think it's probably a short list to mention what you don't create at this point. I know you just came out with a line of paints that we'll get into, but I want to get to know you a little bit better. Sure. So what was your... we're going to go all the way back to the beginning. What was your first dabbling into TTRPGs, or was it more the artistic side first and then TTRPGs? How did that process start for you?
I mean, as a kid, obviously, I played TTRPGs when it was far less cool and widely accepted.
Absolutely.
And then for a time there, I just didn't have time. I was super busy with my tech background. And then when we started again, as adults, my wife and I started playing, and I started DMing for some friends. And kind of the moment where it kind of sparked was we were playing, and I had pulled out a model that I had just picked up at a local game store, and the table couldn't figure out what it was. They were like, is it a giant? Is it an ogre? Is it an orc? And I was like, this really stinks. This is not a great experience as a DM and as a player. Our hobby deserves better. I bet you I could do a little better. And then I started tinkering with 3D printers, and I really kind of went down the rabbit hole really hardcore, down to reading NASA white papers about how they use the technology and how they develop certain techniques to be able to clean materials in space, and how to use certain liquids without having it be abrasive to the machinery and having it be bad for, because you have limited oxygen out there. It's
yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah,
really went down the rabbit hole there, and learned how to do testing to calibrate and test these machines and then improve them. And I ended up tinkering enough that I ended up just changing out components of the machine, reprogramming certain things. I have a tech background. So when I came out of this 6-month, 9-month hibernation and playing with it, and I came back to the table, I was like, all right, here's this thing. And people were like, what? That is crazy.
Yeah.
That's better than anything available. I would buy this. I want to buy this.
Yeah.
And I thought that they honestly were just blowing smoke, right? They're our friends. They're just being really nice. They're being supportive. I was like, sure, guys, whatever, fine. Then there was a toy swap meet in the area, and I was like, I'm gonna bring a tub of these models just to gauge people's interest and maybe meet some other people that are doing it too, and kind of nerd out with folks. And I met the owner of our local game store, him and his right hand man, who was huge into minis. And I opened it and I showed him, and he's like, what is this? I need to buy this from you right now. And sure enough, I gave him the whole thing. I was like, here, just have it, enjoy, have fun. And he invited me over to talk about potentially carrying some of the stuff. And we couldn't have our conversation undisturbed because employees and customers were like, "Where do I buy this? This is amazing."
Yeah.
And through honestly, I owe a lot of huge thanks to Zulu's and Matt and Ethan at Zulu's game store, because they helped me understand the retailer side of
Okay.
things and how I could be the best partner to a retailer, how I could make their life easier and add value.
Hmm.
And thanks to them, sitting down and spending time with me on that, we are now carried in a lot of retail stores because they love our process, they love our product, they love how easy it is to inventory it and take it in. We really take into consideration their intake process, their storage process, their selling process. So it's really really great. Yeah. So I love that, and that that's kind of like the spark that started it all.
Okay. You mentioned playing when you were younger and then taking, like as most people do, you played younger, took a break, and then as an adult, you finally had more time to get back into it. Was there, and I know a lot of your miniatures are more D&D centric with
Mm-hmm.
some of the classes and characters and stuff like that. Was that the main focus of your play, or were there other games in the mix as well?
Yeah, it was mainly fantasy based. Some D&D, some just like homebrew stuff that my friends
Okay.
and I would mess around with, and kind of use the framework of D&D as a loose framework. But just a lot of theater of the mind and a lot of pen and paper stuff that we just theorize. And it's like, oh man, I'd love to make a video game, but I can't, so I'm gonna make a paper game. So yeah.
That's how it goes most of the time.
Yep.
Nowadays, what are you playing?
Oh man, to be completely honest with you, I haven't had much time to play much. I did have a campaign I was part of for 7 years almost,
Oh wow.
um, and we just kind of had to separate because it was unfair to the team that has been there for so long that meets weekly, and then I have to keep canceling for shows, or I'm late, or I lose track of what's going on. So just kind of had to bow out of that, and but that was 5e. That's the last thing I played
Mm.
up to a couple months ago. And when I do join one shot or I do make an appearance into a game, it's usually 5e. So that's kind of like what I'm most knowledgeable with. So it's easy for me
Okay.
to jump in and not have to invest a lot of time into learning a new system. But I would like to learn some new sci-fi systems too. I think that'd be a fun itch.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of my questions. Was like running a business obviously is a lot of time and effort. How do you get that work-life balance? Obviously, from what you just said, not great. But what do you do to like maintain that sanity from not working literally 24 hours a day?
It's hard. We right now the business is in a point where I am still working nearly 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's funny. I give myself 1 week a year to kind of like relax, and that's usually after the new year, like shortly after the new year. And that's when my friends would kind of see me reemerge, show up online, and they're like, "Whoa, you're alive!
Yeah.
You're here!" And I'll usually play something then. So whatever game is out or whatever game I have like on a hot list to play.
Okay.
Um, I know that when Diablo came out, the newest Diablo came out, I spent a little bit of time playing that with friends, and obviously people were bugging me super hardcore to try. Um, Gosh, what's the new shooter? It's funny, I totally forgot the name of it. The new shooter that everybody was losing their minds over. It's like Dropship Troopers, but not.
Oh,
It's
oh, oh, Helldivers.
Helldivers. That's it.
Helldivers 2, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
So
still on my
folks were
list to pick
like,
up.
yeah, like my friends were like hardcore, like Helldivers, we gotta play. So I jumped in and I played for a little while, and it was an absolute blast. And when I do that, I'll usually take like a day or two off, and I'll play it ultra hardcore,
Okay.
almost not sleeping, because I've got to cram in the fun, into as small space as I can.
Yeah, absolutely. So your company started in 2019, that's correct?
Yep. So the
Okay.
company was founded in 2019. I was doing 3D printing and other like ad hoc stuff before that, even in early 2018,
Okay.
but we didn't formally form a company until 2019.
Okay. As a pretty new company going into 2020,
Oh
how
boy.
did sure, yeah, yeah, you know what's
Oh,
coming. As a new company, how did the global pandemic affect?
oh
You were able
man.
to hang out, and you're still going strong today afterwards. So how did that affect things on your end? How were you able to overcome those obstacles as they came up?
Yeah, so that was some wild times. Um, we were slated to have our very first convention in March of 2020, and it was Emerald City Comic Con. We
Mm.
had gotten a tiny little 6x8 booth, um, and we had it was very hard to get into the show, and I pleaded my way into a tiny 6x8 booth. We had made a little bit of product. We had a couple of people that were going to go there with us, and obviously COVID was starting really at that time, and we hadn't heard that it would cancel. They didn't cancel until like 2 weeks before the show,
Oof.
which was brutal. It might have been even a little less than that. It might have been like 10 days. So here we are, all this product, all this money is out there. We had booked people, we had made merch, we had just a ton of stuff like in the pipeline ready for it, and it was a huge bummer. It was an absolute massive bummer. And after a day or two, I was like, there's a lot going on right now. There's a lot worse things happening to people than missing out on a show.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna be fine. I had just left my full time job, which was very rough. Um, so I just said, we're gonna pretty much deplete all of our savings and come out better, come out stronger. I'm gonna take this time to work on the website. I'm gonna take this time to work on plans. I designed our booth from scratch, and a lot of that was done during the
Okay.
pandemic times where you couldn't leave the house. So I kept busy. I was still working about 24/7,
Yeah.
and we were new, so nobody really knew about us. We were sold in one retail store, our local retail store, so everything was extremely slow, and we were starting to kind of have a bit of a panic there. But I was like, believe in the process, believe in the plan and the vision, and just keep better. Like whatever I wish I would have time for in the future, do it now.
Yeah.
Preload, prepare, just front load as much work as you can, and use it to your advantage, and come out of this way stronger. So when stuff went back online in November of 21, so Emerald City Comic Con supposed to happen in March. They moved it all the way to November in 21, so they didn't lose 2 years worth of shows.
Yeah.
So it was an off time for the show. It was still, during the heat of COVID, and the show went live. I said, okay, well, this is our time. Everyone had pulled out. I went to the showrunners and said, hey guys, can I get a bigger booth?
Yeah. We're still
And
here. Can we? Yeah.
they're like, yes. How big would you like it? You could have as big as you like because there's nobody here.
Yeah.
And so we got a 10x20 double corner, which was
Nice.
just massive for our size company.
Yeah.
We way over prepared in some ways. We way under prepared in some other ways. We had our friends come and help. It was the toughest show we ever did because it was our first. Because it was right in the heat of COVID. It was
Mm-hmm.
an off month. It was rough. It was insanely rough, and we learned and we learned and we learned and we learned and kept going. And now I think we've done 17 or 18 shows now. Um, we are so much better for it, and we're so much better prepared.
Yeah.
But it paid off. Investing our time and energy during the lockdowns into the company and keeping that belief and not swaying absolutely paid off. It let us have this crazy growth. And they're like, wait, people are like, wait, you guys are only 5 years old as a company. You guys are doing stuff that's like 10-year or 15-year company or 20-year company would be doing.
Yeah.
How? And it's like, well, that was part of it. We really invested into it.
That's a really good mentality to have during such an upheaval in. I mean, businesses, have good days and bad days, but like something like that is something that nobody could have really prepared for. And having that mentality of, all right, well, here's stuff we can't do, shut that down. Here's stuff we can work
Mm-hmm.
on for the future because this will pass eventually. And having, like I said, having that mentality during those times is a great way to think about it. Like, yes, this sucks, but let's do this.
Absolutely. It. I mean, the alternative was pull the e-brake, right, and stop the company, find a job, and
Yeah.
then what? And then what? And then you can try to do it again later on.
Yeah, just go back to the 9 to 5 for
Yeah,
1, 2, 3 years.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
absolutely.
let's full throttle. Let's go. While people are second guessing themselves, it's a time to hit the gas and hit full speed on that. So
Really double
I
down, and
yeah
everybody else can second guess. I know what I'm doing.
yeah yep.
Yeah,
And if not, I mean, there are. I'm not perfect. We're not perfect. We've made mistakes. We've learned. If you make a mistake, just learn quickly.
yeah,
Fail fast, learn quickly, and recover faster. That's no one's going to be infallible.
yeah, absolutely. That's a great company motto. Fail fast. I like that.
Yeah.
You were mentioning doing stuff, that 10, 15-year-old companies would be doing. You just recently, last few months, launched your own line of paints, and then you also launched an airbrush. What how did that how did you make that switch from like designing miniatures to actually like third party, or not third party, but like peripheral gear? Because you also have, I have these myself, the aluminum paintbrushes, the scepters. Yeah, that's the
The
scepter's
scythe. Yeah.
the
The
scythe is the
scythe.
brush, the
Yep.
scepter's the mini holder. I
Yep.
have both of those and I love them. But like, how did you go from minis to actually like art arting?
Yeah. Into hobby tools. So
That's the word. Hobby tools. Thank you.
yeah, honestly, it was very organic. It was not forced at all. Once again, same thing, right? We're sitting there, we have some friends over, we're painting together, hanging out, and folks are like, they'll pull out their brushes and they're like, "Oh man, this brush is completely frayed,"
Mm-hmm.
and they just throw it out. And I'm like, "Oh, the only thing that's bad about that brush is like the tip. Like, that's such a waste. Now
Yeah.
you got to go buy the whole thing." And I was like, "There's got to be a better way. Like, there just has to be a better way." And then came the, okay, let's find a better way to do this. Let's find a better way to do a brush. Same thing with the airbrush. I kept talking to people, and they're like, "Oh, love the idea of an airbrush. I would love to airbrush. I'd love to prime with it at least, and
Yeah.
then varnish with it. Right? Those are the two main things you can do with it. That'll have the biggest improvement instantly on your painting. However, I don't know about needle sizes and fittings and cones and this and the compressor, and it's loud and it's bulky and it's expensive and it's dirty. I don't know how to maintain it." I'm like, man, if only there was an absolute complete kit. You get it, and it is 100% of everything you'll need to do it. And I'm like, I bet, I bet I could do this. I bet I could make this work. And sure enough, started with each component. First thing was the compressor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, there are compressors out there that are mobile, but they all have their shortcomings. The battery's built in, so you can't replace it, or has a proprietary charging port, or you don't know what battery level you have, or doesn't put out enough pressure, or it's too loud, it's inconsistent. So, worked with some designers and fabric factories overseas, and came together to create a compressor that hit every single goal I was looking for. And it wasn't easy, and it wasn't cheap.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But to have a USB-C chargeable with LEDs for battery level, it's removable. The connectors to the battery are going to be long lasting because they're very durable. It's very compact, long battery life. The compressor will turn on and off depending on pressure level, so you don't waste your battery. And the fact that it can run constantly, even while it's charging, like, that was just all key. And then also, I wanted the fittings to all be standard. I did not want to have a proprietary fitting that would lock you into a system that we have to maintain or that you have to buy from us.
Yeah.
I want you to be able to use another airbrush on the same compressor, another compressor on your airbrush. That's the goal, right? Be the good you want to see in our hobby. That's
Yeah.
always my goal. So sure enough, yep, compressor. Then went on to the airbrush itself, and it's like, okay, great. Let's look at the body. I want to learn from those that came before me. I'm not going to reinvent everything from scratch. I know that I'm not going to think of everything. So we had open sides on the rear, so you can easily unclog or undo your needle. We had a backstop, so you have consistent paint trigger motion if you want to do that.
Okay.
The cup, I saw that some people offered threaded, so you can have a removable cup or not. I saw that as a big risk because if you cross thread, then you destroy the body. So we're
Yeah.
like, nope, we're gonna have it built in, but let's think about what we can achieve if we choose to have it built in. What can we do with it that you cannot do with a normal airbrush that has a removable cup? Well, we gave it a giant mouth at the bottom. It is just absolutely massive, so you can see clear into the chamber where your needles, and you can clean it, and you can verify that it is clean versus a tiny little opening. And you just keep moving forward. It's like, okay, now the nozzles. Well, if you're a professional, you want an open-sided nozzle so you can clean your needle more easily.
Yeah.
But if you're not a professional, if you're a beginner, you want a safety nozzle so you can't poke yourself or bend your needle. And they're like, which one do you want? It's like, both. I want
Yeah,
both.
absolutely.
So you can grow with it. And now let's include a full cleaning kit as well. Let's include the hose. Let's include a moisture trap. Let's also include 3 size needles so you can do, you can grow with it and do different projects with it. And it's all in one kit. That's all you need. You don't need extra fittings. You don't need anything else. And we even have a pack of seals of rubber gaskets on our website. It's only
Okay.
like $5, I think, on our site. And that's all you need. And it's a full kit to replace all the seals in your airbrush.
That's awesome.
Yep.
The paint line, or line of paints, I should say, was there a particular reason? And I'm kind of picking up on this just because of your mentality of wanting to make products that are good. But was there a particular reason why you decided to do your own line of paints versus just partnering with an existing paint line, or what was the thought process behind all of that?
Yeah, and that's something that I considered for a while. I knew that there was a desire in the industry for some unique paint characteristics that were all under one roof. I love the guys at Turbodork. I love the guys at Monument. I get along with them. We chat. We're very friendly. And I love what they do. We use their paints. We have each other's stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I just wanted to have everything under one roof. And one of the things that I saw kind of a gap in the industry was an outstanding fluorescent line of paints.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look on YouTube, you will see people have so many videos made to compare fluorescent paints. And it's like, well, if they're doing this, it's because they're searching. Like, people are seeking the best possible fluorescence you can get, right?
Yeah.
So there's obviously a desire there. So we set out starting with fluorescence, and then we moved on to metallics. Why is there such a limited range of metallic paints? And why is their pigmentation not as dense as it should be?
Yeah.
So I chatted with some big lines overseas, and in the end, we're too small. To be frank, we are too small to register on their radar. And they were very nice. They said, "Oh, you can be a reseller of our stuff," but
Okay.
that's not at the core of what we want. We wanted to have our own thing, and kind of create a solution that's lacking right now. So instead, we found these amazing paint bottlers in Colombia, and I speak Spanish fluently.
Okay.
So I got connected to them through a friend in Mexico and started chatting. They're very humble, they're small, they're very honest people. And we started going back and forth on formulation ideas and colors and pigmentation and just planning, and then started prototyping and shipping back and forth for a while, until we landed on the colors we wanted and the consistency we wanted, and then sent it out to some pro painters to give us honest feedback on it.
Yeah.
And we adapted. We did not get it right the first time or the third time. We kept growing and improving until this day. We're still always taking feedback,
Yeah.
and that's the agility of a small company. We want to make sure to put out the best, and we care. So we will adapt, right? We will definitely learn and become better from it. And now people are asking for our paints by name at retail stores. It's funny. We're a small team. We're a small company. I get proactive phone calls from retail store owners asking, "Hey, can I get your paints? Like, I didn't know you guys made paints, but we have customers coming in asking for you guys by name because they saw someone streaming with them, or because they heard about it at a show."
Yeah.
And our biggest success right now is our fluorescents and our metallics, but our regular paints are also starting to get more and more love. Something that I totally didn't expect. It was something that I made because I saw a need, but I didn't know how big.
Mm-hmm.
Was our liquid masking.
Okay.
I was like, oh, we'll just make a little liquid masking. I didn't realize that was a huge need in the industry, especially in the U.S. Having a small bottle of liquid masking that you can brush on and have it dry to become like a plastic, and then you can
Okay.
peel it off. It's like a rubber. You can peel it off
Gotcha.
when you're done. Was huge. So that's been a huge success. People love our medium. People love our varnish. It's good all around, but it's been so humbling and so nice to see people kind of rally around it. I don't
Yeah.
have marketing dollars. I'm not a big name, right? I don't have tens of thousands of dollars I'm spending on marketing every month.
Yeah.
Every little inch that we've gained has been from word of mouth and from people loving it and sharing, and their stores wanting to pick stuff up to carry for their products.
You had mentioned in one of our emails back and forth that you were recently on set for Dimension 20.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that we're able to talk about? Or I know their NDAs are pretty strict, so I don't want to get you in trouble.
Yeah,
But
the NDA is very strict, and we absolutely make sure not to say anything that would get us in trouble. I have gotten clearance to say that we are working with them, and that's no mystery because we are credited in the credits on some of their seasons.
mm-hmm.
I was very, very kindly invited on set for a recording session. It was a very long recording session, and I was there the entire time, and it was an amazing time. I had already worked with Rick Perry and met him quite a few times, but meeting everyone else on set, obviously the cast and the guests, amazing, right? Everyone loves them, but we don't get to really see the crew behind the scenes, and like I love seeing the inner workings. So getting to meet the art department and chat with them and kind of see how things go, and then also the sound and lighting and like it is just amazing, right? And it was a full working day, so I didn't get to like sit and chat with them at length.
Okay.
But in passing, when somebody had a moment, I was like, can I help? Can I help? They're like, no, you're a guest. You're a guest. Like, relax. You're fine. I was like, I can't just sit here and watch you guys work and not help, right? Like, I'm going to hand you stuff. I'm going to hand you a vacuum. I'm going to hand you this. So just, you let me know if I'm in your way. And just amazing people. Just fantastic stuff. I do have some photos. I cannot post them until that season airs, obviously. I don't want to spoil anything. So I cannot wait to be able to post it. I will say the best way to watch Dimension 20 is live while they're filming it because there's nothing like it.
I'm super upset that their live shows were filmed in what was it, Manchester, somewhere over in England. I don't remember the city offhand. I was like, I would love to see them live, and they had those live shows over there. I was like, can I see that?
Yeah, it was amazing, and sharing a space with the director, executive producer, everyone that's there, and we're all watching because it's you got to watch the monitor to see what's going on.
Yeah.
So like what people don't realize is like we're right off camera, like just right behind where the cameras are, and we're quietly cheering and jumping and like just like covering our mouths.
That's funny, yay!
Covering our mouths. Like we're also holding our breath behind the camera and like cheering when a great moment happens and like, oh no, that just happened, right? So
that's fantastic.
It was so cool to feel that energy and share it in a very, very long filming day. Still going on. Oh, amazing. I cannot wait to go back and continue working with them. We have ongoing stuff, and I'm very excited I'm also a huge fan, right? So whenever we have a call, I'm very excited to hear like what's coming and how can we make it amazing. How can we be a small part in this magic? And we could not be more grateful. They have been absolutely amazing to work with.
That's what I keep hearing about anybody that I've spoken to that's worked with them. They're like, they're great to work with and everything. I keep reading about them. is also inspiring on like how a company should run. So that's really cool to hear again that they're doing it right.
Oh yeah, I was shocked at what an amazing product they make, how much they pull off with so few space and resources.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you talk about min maxing, those guys are eking every little bit out of every little penny that they have to make it work. And they seem like a huge operation just because like their marketing super professional, they're super professional, they're great people. Um, but in reality, like, it's a tight knit group that really loves and respects each other, and is very, it doesn't matter like how important what they're doing is. Everyone's first priority is, are you okay? Do you feel safe? Do you feel comfortable with what you're being asked to do? You know, it's something simple as like rigging something up.
Yeah.
Like, hey, just we'll take a step, we'll do it safely. Like, are you cool? Is everyone good with this? You know, and it was amazing to see that they haven't lost that um, small company touch and feel to it. It's still very much a tight knit group that
Yeah.
loves what they do.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Um, sorry we got distracted by turning this into a dropout love fest for a little bit,
No,
but
it's fun.
um, back to more personal stuff about you. What are some of your biggest artistic inspirations? Is there a certain like
Man.
artist or like graphic novel designer or anything like that that you draw from whenever you're modeling or painting or anything like that?
So I will say that I am not nearly talented enough to sculpt myself.
Mm-hmm.
I can kind of putz around a little bit to relay an idea to our sculptors, but none of the sculpts that you've seen, none of those models were sculpted by me personally.
Okay.
I leave that to much more talented people. I am very much focused on the business side of things,
Okay.
and the customer experience side, because I am, while I'm not a master painter, I still like to put some paint on models and just have fun, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that experience as a customer is what I kind of focus on. However, I I do like to take a step back sometimes and look at any media, a movie, a TV show, a video game, and think about the creative decisions that were made. Like, that mountain in that game didn't just happen by mistake. Somebody put it there. Somebody thought
Yeah.
of it. That was a fine detail, right? And I want to make sure that we are making those decisions accordingly in our sculpts. So when you see a guy that has a scar across his shoulder, well, we're going to have a matching some damage on his cloak or on his armor or on his shield, right? Like, I want things to make sense.
Okay.
I don't want to just slap gears on something and call it steampunk.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh man, I'm a huge fan of steampunk, and that stuff infuriates me when I see that.
exactly.
Like, oh yeah, here look, it's a sword, but there's a gear at the end. Now it's steampunk.
Yeah, and it's like that. Why? Like, what
Yeah,
is the
exactly.
purpose of it? Even though we are in high fantasy and sci-fi, I want there to be a why behind it. You
Yeah.
know, if I will, and it's something I'll challenge my sculptors. Like, okay, I'm not saying I dislike it, but I want you to tell me why. Even,
Mm-hmm.
it could be super fantastical. It could be some magical thing, but tell me the why this dragon has this sort of membrane by its neck. You
Yeah.
know, like, what is it? How did it get there? What purpose does it serve? And when we're sculpting creatures, I will remind them, let's think about this creature moving through the world. What parts of it will have more wear than the parts that will be more pristine? You know, if it's super pristine, it looks like a younger creature,
Mm-hmm.
versus if it's war torn and damaged and scuffed and scarred, that could be like an elder dragon, right?
Yeah.
And like, where the scuffs and scars go makes sense. You don't just randomly just scuff the whole side of this thing. It's like, well, what? How big was the thing that gave it the scuff? You know,
Yeah.
so it's gotta make sense,
Yeah.
right?
It's got to make sense. It has to have a story. Like, why did this thing happen? If this is a
Exactly.
giant dragon, what
Right.
hurt a giant dragon, and
Right.
how
Yeah.
so? Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and and listen, if you say it's an elder god and it had like that, okay, awesome. Like, cool. Let's think about that. Well, the elder god, if it had a claw, it would have had a different shape of a scuff. So let's just alter the shape a little bit. So it's whatever. And now it's cohesive,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes I know for myself when I'm in the business side of things, we get so hyper focused on one minimal detail that we lose sight of the bigger picture. And sometimes it takes somebody else coming from the outside saying, "Hey, have you seen it from this angle, or have you considered it from this perspective?" Oh, okay, cool, and we'll help each other out that way. And everyone that we work with is super responsive to that.
Okay.
They don't see it as me trying to slight anyone,
Yeah.
or second guess their abilities or skill, but just to lend some perspective, right?
Yeah. It's not like,
So
oh, you're not an artist. You might not call yourself an artist, but you're the target audience. So like,
yep,
if it doesn't make sense to the target audience,
yep,
make it make sense, like you said. Yeah.
exactly. And I'll do that with our sculptors, and I'll do that with our painters as well. Where it's like, okay, well, let's look at the color scheme. Well, the scar doesn't make sense to be colored that way, right? Because softer tissue will look a certain way. So let's just move towards a different palette towards it, and then they'll eventually see it when it's done. They're like, oh yeah, that looks amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
cool,
Exactly.
good stuff. And once again, I don't consider myself a master artist by any means, but having those fresh eyes to be able to pop over and look at it and say, okay, that doesn't quite jive. Let's tweak it a little bit, and it'll be much better afterwards. Great.
Yeah.
I'm not infallible. I'm not always right. I
Yeah. Of
don't always
course.
have the
Yeah. Yeah.
answer.
But it's good to, like you said, to have that extra insight, just another pair of eyes. Yeah. Absolutely. Uh, what is so we've talked about the products you guys make. You guys make minis, you make dice, you make paints, you have the airbrush. At this point, what's coming up from Lethal Shadows that we can expect? You mentioned going to PAX Unplugged in
Yeah.
December. What are some other shows that are coming up, or what's like a big push forward that you're
Hmm.
working on now, if we can talk about it?
Yeah. There's plenty we can't talk about, but there's also plenty we can.
Sure.
So PAX Unplugged is going to be our next show we're at. So it's going to be in Philadelphia in early December. We are super excited to be there. We haven't officially announced it yet, but if everything goes well, we are on track to have a secondary space in Unplugged.
Ooh.
So we're going to have our 20 by 20 island booth near the merch shop, which was awesome last year.
Yeah.
We're also going to have a 20 by 20 space in the miniatures area where we are looking to run painting classes.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, literally before jumping on this, I was just writing some emails up, coordinating with the powers that be on the logistics of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, if everything works well, we are going to have 24 seats,
Okay.
and we are going to run classes every 3 hours. Um, and I'm looking to do an intro to airbrushing class with our
Oh, okay.
airbrush, where the cost of entry to the class includes the airbrush. Everybody will get one. Everybody
Okay.
will open their airbrush there and learn how to strip it down to its bare parts, learn how to lubricate it, clean it, put it back together, and then we're going to shoot water through it, just so you learn trigger control, you learn how that works, you learn what parts of the airbrush will be hit by that water. That's where paint would go,
Yeah.
and what parts we don't want to. So it'll teach you some maintenance. Then we'll wipe it down, put it back, and you should be good. You should be pretty well armed and confident to go home and start using it. So that's the airbrush portion of it. And then the other part is going to be just intro to painting,
Yeah.
learning some of the basics on what does it mean to thin your paints? How can you tell when you've thinned them too far? How do you prime? How do you block in color on your model? How do you dry brush? When's too dry? When's not?
Yeah.
Um,
Those are my biggest challenges right now, is making sure that my paint's thinned out but not too thin, and then
mhm.
the dry brushing, I still have not even
Yeah,
close to any sort of technique on that. Yeah.
yeah. So that's exactly what we want to cover, and what we want to have people be very confident in when they walk away.
Yeah.
So theoretically, we will run classes every 3 hours, with the last class, I believe, ending at 8 p.m. And that all could shift, but
Yeah.
we will be running ticket sales for that on our website. We'll have a newsletter go out about that, and social media post go out about that once it's finalized.
Awesome.
So we're really, really excited about that. It's going to be our first time doing painting classes, like leader-led classes at an event. We have done paint and takes before. We did it at Emerald City Comic Con. It went extremely well.
Yeah.
And then we'll kind of play around and see how that goes. If that goes well, you can expect to see that at other shows in the future.
Sure, absolutely.
So that's immediately going to happen at Unplugged. One big request we've gotten for our paint scythe is that people want natural bristles, right? They want Kolinsky sable or something of the sort. And we're getting close to having that launch, and I'm hoping to launch that at Unplugged. No guarantee yet. We're kind of on the cusp, right?
Yeah.
So I think that'll be our big release, if you will, at Unplugged. I try to have every show have something new or unique. Obviously, in March we had 3 shows back to back. It's hard to do that for all 3.
Yeah, it's hard to do that. Yeah, one new paint color every show.
Yeah. I mean, that's possible. Yeah. But Gen Con we had some new stuff, and then we had some new stuff at PAX West, and now for Unplugged we're gonna have that. And then 2025. Oh man.
Is 2025 the year of Lethal Shadows?
It's gonna be amazing. So, I am very hopeful that everything will go well. If Unplugged goes very well, then it'll pave the way for us to be able to invest even more into our booth.
Okay.
So right now we have a 20 by 20 booth, an island when we can. If not, we have a peninsula. That's fine. Potentially, if things go well, 2025 we're looking to expand our booth to be 20 by 30.
Ooh.
And so it's 50% bigger. It's quite a big jump. And hopefully be able to launch our sci-fi side.
So, ooh, okay.
Yes.
Sci-fi in regards to just science fiction as like a broad term, or is there like a certain property that you're kind of wanting to focus at, not necessarily with?
Yeah. Sci-fi for sure. Just like the fantasy side is broad strokes.
Okay.
You can have high fantasy. You can have medieval, more realistic. It's all in their fantasy. And then the sci-fi, I want to be able to, if we owned the IPs, you could compare them to Cyberpunk. You can compare them to other war games, right?
Okay, that's what I was like hinting at. Like, what are we looking like? Not what are we looking for? Like a laser sword type of thing.
Right. Like cyberpunkish. I think steampunk kind of straddles that a little bit, so I would still keep that under the fantasy side.
Okay.
But Gundam-esque stuff.
Okay.
And then wargaming stuff as well.
Gotcha.
Those have been highly sought after by customers. So
yeah,
we've been slowly working on stuff behind the scenes to have enough models and product and ideas to bring forth. And I think if Unplugged is kind to us and things go well, which by the way, PAX West was amazing. People were amazing to us. If we continue that pattern, then I think we'll have the funding to do this stuff. People have also said, why don't you just go on, do some sort of crowdfunding?
That was gonna be a follow-up question. Like, is that something that's been discussed, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think that companies should get stuff ready and prepare a launch without having to count on the money of the crowds, without having something to give them right away, right? So, like, we could have crowdfunded our paintbrush. We could have crowdfunded our airbrush. We could have crowdfunded some of the new dice designs we have coming out.
Yeah.
And I think they would have done well. But I don't know. I like to be able to deliver something to the customer right away. and not go through that whole rigmarole, and then give Kickstarter a percentage, and then have a deep discount, right? So it's like a lot of companies put themselves in debt through successful Kickstarters, and that's just a peril that I don't need.
Yeah.
So if I can help it, we will continue to self-fund our growth, unless there's some major, massive undertaking, create your own board game with its own framework and system and minis and everything, right?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe we'll go into that. I'll never say never, because you never know what comes up.
Yeah.
But
it's a good option to
not
have.
Yeah, it's a good option to have. I prefer not to. I prefer not to ask people for money for stuff that's not made yet.
Yeah.
And it's kind of scary, man. I my greatest fear is letting down our customers. Like, literally my greatest fear is letting them down. And my wife and the team will attest to that. I'm always thinking of, like, what does the customer's experience through this choice? How am I going to affect that? And promising or and then under delivering, or being unclear and having a misunderstanding happen, right? Man, nope. I would rather delay, make money later, make less sales. That's fine.
Yeah, but it's good to have that mindset of, like, Kickstarter crowdfunding is an option, but nothing you want to focus on. I just got an email yesterday of a project I backed 4 years ago that's supposed to be shipping this month. So we'll see how that goes. But that's a good mentality to have. Is like, I like that. Like, yes, we do want to do more stuff, but also we want to make sure that we're ready to go when we're ready to go. I like that.
Yeah, I feel like I'm personally burnt out from being burned on Kickstarter, right?
Yeah.
Like, I've been let down. I'm burnt out. I don't want that experience for our customers. And then they have to sit around and wait and hope and wish and dream.
And then hope it's a good product.
We're out here doing shows. Yeah. Meanwhile, here we are spending money doing shows, putting out other product on our own. And they're like, wait, I thought you needed money because you didn't have it, but you're out here spending it. It's like, like a major faucet brand did a Kickstarter for a new faucet design. And I was like, what? You're a multi-billion-dollar global company.
Yeah. Get on Kickstarters for, like, the small indie people that don't have the massive bankroll. Yeah.
What?
So that makes no sense.
Yeah. So I just feel like Kickstarter is abuse sometimes, and customers are kind of used to that. And I don't want to. People are surprised. They're like, wait, your airbrush is out? Like, you didn't Kickstart it? You didn't? No. Like, just here. You have it today. Yeah. Tonight you could be using it.
Here you go. Take it with you.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, you say tonight, it's sold out on the website right now, but
it is. It was crazy. So at Unplugged at West, we had a healthy stock, and boy, they all sold out. Even the displays sold out.
Oh wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it was wild, and the scepters too. Like, we were down to the displays on those. So that was wild. We should have, if tracking is correct, we should have more airbrushes by Friday.
Okay.
So those will be back in stock. I know some people signed up to be notified when they come back online. You can also pre-order them now to get into that next wave of shipments.
Okay.
So I'm hoping to ship those by Monday, Tuesday.
Awesome. I'm excited for this airbrush painting class. So I did a paint and take at last year's Unplugged for a model, and it was a lot of fun. It was like from like the Warhammer booth. It was like a free mini, a couple of different paints to try out. It was a lot of fun, but I've never heard of an airbrushing tutorial at a convention. So that's very, very cool, and I hope that every seat sells out, because I would like to see that trend continue.
Thank you. We have very big plans for that side of things. We've partnered with some very big names in professional painting, and I am okay with the idea of flying them out and paying them to run classes, right? To do high-end classes.
Yeah.
And I don't want to lose sight of the small classes either. In a perfect world, I want to be running 3 classrooms for 3 different levels of classes. And you can come in and join a different level each day that you're at a show, and you get different, tiers of techniques that you learn. I do want to eventually have a room that has well ventilated enough to be able to put paint through an airbrush at a show. We were told it was fine, but I don't feel comfortable with it for our customers. I would much rather have just water, for now, so that you learn some trigger control, so that you can spray it on a paper towel and see how big the mist versus how small, and you can kind of get used to it. And then learn the dual action airbrush. Down is going to be air and back's going to be paint. So when you do that motion, you start to learn, okay, when does the water start coming out? And you understand how it should flow. So when you actually start putting paint through it, you know what to expect already.
Yeah.
You've removed a lot of variables from your troubleshooting.
It start training the muscle memory with water until you get the actual product in there. That's a really good way to teach somebody that.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, we're hoping it grows. We're hoping it's going to be great. A little nerve-wracking because it's going to be our first one, but and we want to do right by people. But I think it's going to be. I'm very confident in our painters. I'm very confident in our team that they will be delivering a good class. So as long as the event itself, the tables are all there, the chairs are all there, our freight arrives, I know that we'll be able to deliver something awesome. Yeah,
I've been to your booth twice at 2 different shows, and it's been a fantastic time both times. So I'm looking forward to that.
Thanks, man.
This coming Unplugged.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Is there anything else you want to chat about?
Well, I've mentioned a lot of stuff coming up. Just want to give a heartfelt thank you to everyone who has supported us. As I said, we're a small family business. We're based out of the Seattle area. I am the only full-time employee that we have. Everyone else is usually starts as a friend that we've contracted on. Especially everyone you see at our booths. Those are all our friends and family. So if it seems like we're treating them like families, because you're surrounded by family. So thank you all. Every little sales, no matter how small it is, goes a long way to help us out. Our next big goal as a company is going to be to acquire a larger warehouse space. So 2025 is going to be the year that we either rent or purchase for the company a warehouse space for us to grow into, and then we can actually have more stock, more dice, more paints, more of everything. So thank you for your patience while we're sold out on some things. That's because we physically can't store more than we do. Our everything is full of product at this point. Our cars, our house, our garage, like everything, and it just circulates through so quickly that we can't store it all. So once again, thank you all. You guys are amazing. We appreciate you, and the best part of what we do is seeing you all at shows. It's literally our most looked after or looked forward to moment. So thank you all.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for joining me, Patrick, owner of Lethal Shadows Premium Miniature Company. We will see you at PAX Unplugged, and thank you everybody for joining us. We'll see you next time.